All right, on today's episode of Business Hammer, I have Lauren Harris with Mosquito Hunters with us. Here, she's based in Corpus Christi, Texas. We're just talking about Tennessee. Sorry about that. Lauren, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome. It took us a little while to get this scheduled out, so I appreciate you being patient with me and joining me. Why don't you tell me a little bit about you and what you do?
Well, I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Stephenville, about 45 minutes southwest of Fort Worth, and went to school out in Abilene. I was actually a collegiate strength and conditioning coach for 15 years.
Interesting.
I was at Marshall University, Ohio State. I made a stop down here at A&M Corpus Christi, and then I went up to Nebraska for 7 or 8 years. And I loved it. It was a great field, but very saturated. And when I wanted to get back to Texas, you just can't call up A&M or Tech or Baylor or
right.
Texas and say, I'm moving back. What kind of job you got for me? And any of the ones that were open were, less money or more work or both. And but I was putting resumes out everywhere. And my resume came across the desk of a lady that her business was to help place people with franchises.
Okay.
And, interviewed me. We talked on the phone for a couple of weeks. And so she got a good idea of what my strengths and things like that would be and what businesses might fit. And then we started with a list of 10, narrowed it down to 3, and then really investigated those. And Mosquito Hunters was the best fit.
That's interesting. So why Corpus Christi? Why not back Stephenville, DFW area?
Well, I loved living here when I worked at A&M Corpus.
Okay.
And I thought, in the back of my mind that if I ever did get back to Texas, if it wasn't going to be closer to my family, I was going to live by the beach.
There you go.
And so that made it a pretty easy decision. And it was an open territory for Mosquito Hunters. So that sealed the deal.
There you go. Awesome. So what about Mosquito Hunters was it that attracted you as opposed to other franchise opportunities that you were looking at?
Well, they've got a great marketing plan, and it seemed like something I could do. It's a pretty simple business model. I didn't have a lot of corporate experience. I had plenty of work experience and
sure.
A lot of things, the people skills and the work ethic that go with athletics. Those skills transfer, but maybe some of the other ones don't from more complicated businesses. And so that was part of the one of the biggest parts of it being a good fit. And with that, maybe lack of initial experience, that's why you want a franchise, because they kind of have a recipe.
Sure.
And then Mosquito Control was not a saturated field, complete opposite of what I was in before. And pest control, there's still, we're not going to run out of bugs in South Texas.
Nope.
And then especially not going to run out of mosquitoes. And so there's a lot of elbow room to get a foothold into the market.
Sure. Absolutely. So I would think, just knowing what I know about South Texas, your biggest problem, even before the pandemic, would just be keeping up with employees, getting enough employees, because there's no lack of mosquitoes, like you said. There's not that.
Right. Especially this past year. Starting out, I was doing a lot of the spraying, and once you get a certain customer count, it's really hard to stay ahead of getting everything scheduled, and someone needs to be in the office. But, if I lost an employee or that we got just an influx of calls, how do you handle them all? So sure. It hasn't been for lack of need or lack of demand. It's been for, can I service the need?
Sure. Absolutely. So what year did you start this in here in Corpus?
I got here in the fall of 2019.
Okay.
But my first full year was in 2020.
Okay. So, man, you started right in the thick of it.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? It kind of sort of slowed things down at first because people were worried, didn't know if they were going to have the money to spend on that kind of thing, didn't know if they were still going to have their jobs. But then they were also home a lot more.
Yep.
A little
and
bit,
trying to go outside
more to notice how bad the bugs were in their yard and things like that. So
sure.
After initial slowdown, things really picked up around May and June.
Interesting. So other than employees, what are the biggest issues that you guys face in your business?
Honestly, I'm trying to think of a bigger one than employees and just being able to handle it. I'll be real honest, because everything else is just, can you get the work done? And because it's pretty simple, and we're providing a great service, a needed service. And it's just meeting the demand.
Sure. So as far as marketing goes, you said that Mosquito Hunters offers a good marketing plan. So do they do the marketing for you as the franchisor, or are you responsible for it? How does that work?
It's kind of a 50-50.
Okay.
They do have a great digital marketing plan. They do some mail outs and things like that. But the rest of it is all what they call ground game.
Sure.
Putting out door hangers, putting out yard signs. We have Gunter. He's our mascot. Gunter,
I've seen
the
him
hunter,
around the island.
and doing parking waves. So standing by the van and Gunter, garnering eyeballs.
Sure.
And so, and that also helps the digital market, because if they see an ad for Mosquito Hunters, or they Google us online, if they've never seen us around town, they might pick somebody else.
Right.
But if they've seen us a few times, oh, I've seen them, or that, I think they live on the island. Let me see what they're doing, that kind of thing. So
Sure.
it kind of goes hand in hand, but the digital marketing does work extremely well if you do your on the ground game.
Yeah. So what percentage, is there any way for you to figure out what percentage of your marketing or of your leads come directly from digital marketing versus other efforts?
Well, that's kind of the thing, is if you do a good job on the ground game, because we all see it in the call log that it came from the website, or it came from a direct lead or a Google or whatever. But so unless the customer specifically says, oh, well, I got a door hanger and then I got something in the mail, and then I finally picked up the phone, or got on the computer and searched it. So it's really hard to tell, but 95% of my leads go through the call center.
Gotcha.
There's, I won't say there's few that call me directly, but that's usually people that I've met personally in town, sure, or friend of a friend kind of thing.
So that seems like a huge benefit. Call center. So you're saying, I'm assuming this is a national call center. They answer calls for all mosquito hunters. Is that correct?
Yes. And that is one great advantage that Mosquito Hunters has. Their parent company is Happy Nest, and that's who owns Lawn Doctor. And they're one of the oldest franchises in the country. And so they've got a lot of resources that a fairly young franchise, because Mosquito Hunters has only been around since 2014. Okay. And so for a young company to have that backing and some of the resources of a bigger company, it's been really nice. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's so for my handyman business I was telling you about, that's one of our biggest things is answering the phone. I'm too cheap to get some answering service. So it goes round robin on cell phones until somebody answers. And we have multiple people that'll answer, and very, very infrequently do people leave voicemails. But I mean, that's the big thing, is people won't leave a voicemail unless it's a current customer or past customer. They'll leave a voicemail, but a new person, they're not going to do it. So that's really cool that they offer that as far as a service to you, because you don't have to worry about calls going unanswered, even if you are out doing the work yourself or out doing the marketing.
Yes. So, and then we did get to the customer count that the call log was so long that we really try to get back to people within 24 hours and set up their service. And so that's going to be this next step, is I will need someone in the office, even with the call center. Yeah.
Just to keep up with that. Yeah. Cause once they call, you still have to get back with them and say, hey, we're coming out X, Y, and Z. Yeah. Yeah. So what do you find yourself spending the most time on?
It's been speaking with customers, getting back out to them. And then with the hiring, I have spent more time with the backpack sprayer on my back than I had planned on.
Sure.
I do. So it's kind of 50-50 that I'm doing the spraying and then the scheduling, routing, getting in contact with customers.
Yeah. So in a perfect world, if labor ever goes back to what we would consider normal pre-pandemic, what do you see yourself spending the most time on then? Like what's the game plan for that?
When I first started out, when you don't have very many customers, you got plenty of time to go do the networking and go do the marketing kinds of stuff and kind of handling that.
Sure.
Because I want to, run a few reports a week and check in with a few customers and things like that. But I really enjoy the connection with people and kind of creating those relationships, because that's how you maintain clients. That's how you keep them around.
Sure.
You made them happy and they trust you, and it's a relationship. It's not just a transactional.
Yeah, absolutely. How much emphasis do you put on Google My Business reviews or Facebook reviews or any type of review?
That is a big part of what they coached us on early, was to garner a lot of reviews. And again, a lot of that's relationships, making your customers happy so you can get those reviews. At first it was, just character references of people that knew me personally, that I met out doing networking and things like that. But once you get enough customers, then you don't really have to rely on that quite as much.
Sure.
That you really are just doing a job worthy of that 5-star review, because Google's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's extremely valuable to any business that's looking to find new clients. They see 150 5-star reviews. Okay, we'll try them first.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing I noticed. You have a perfect 5.0 on 136 reviews. That's very impressive for any business, especially service business, because, people always have complaints. But it's, heading that complaint off if something didn't go perfect before it becomes a bad review. So who's responsible for trying to get those 5-star reviews? Is it you? Do you put your employees when they leave? Are they supposed to say, hey, I'd like for you to give us a 5-star review? How do you guys handle that?
I do, and it's mostly me, or it was at first. I do incentivize my technicians
Okay.
that, every Google review that mentions their name and Mosquito Hunters, I give them a little bit of a bonus.
Oh, that's awesome.
Has the most at the end of the year, like that kind of thing. So, I mean, they should be motivated to do a good job anyway, but knowing that someone might put their name on a review, right, plus an extra 10 or $20, makes a difference.
Sure.
I can't incentivize clients. That's cheating.
Yeah.
But I can
you can incentivize them to ask. Believe me,
yes.
I've done everything short of begging people. Gosh. I mean, no matter what business I've run, whether it was car dealerships or anything, just, please just ask. Like,
our franchise does put out just periodically email blasts to our customer lists,
sure,
and our client lists. Just saying, hey, it means a lot to a small business. If you've got a couple of minutes, here's just the link, click, and it's on the bottom of every email we send out. So we definitely push. Yeah,
absolutely. So what's the biggest piece of advice after doing this now for, about a little over 2 years? What's your biggest piece of advice for somebody looking to either start or grow their home service business?
You got to show up. Oh my goodness. I think you got that first impression of, man, they got a call back quickly. They got service relatively quickly, and that they got what they expected the first time around. Some of that setting expectations as well. Because,
sure,
they think, oh, you're spraying for the bugs. I won't see a single mosquito.
Right. Ever again.
For an entire,
yeah.
Well, at first, especially if they're bad, you're going to see less.
Sure.
And setting those expectations and that we do promise to come back and give it a booster if it doesn't work. And it happens periodically. Every now and then someone's on a tough property with a million trees and a million bushes, or they've got a swamp back behind their back fence. And that takes
sure,
a little bit of, you have to beat that down. So some of it's setting expectations, but also whatever expectations you set, you got to meet them.
Yeah, absolutely. So who sets those expectations? Is it on the initial call? Is it the technician that's spraying? How do you guys manage that?
It's both.
Okay.
The call center, they're trained really well they've got their spill. And then when we reach out to them to set up service, we explain the service again, or let them, see if they have any questions. And then the technician, it's a lot about education.
Sure.
We have a checklist of things to look out for in the yard besides just what we spray. Hey, we found all these buckets behind the shed, or we found this
dump the water out.
And we'll dump out what we can, but if it's something, sure, that's repeatedly going to have standing water in it,
yeah,
or they haven't mowed the field behind their house in a year and a half,
sure,
it's going to it gets hairy. So it's a lot of it's education and working with the clients.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what percentage of your clients are repeat?
We maintain, it's been around 85%.
That's incredible.
From the year before. We're doing pretty well with that.
That's incredible. So that's the only downside of Flip Flop Handyman. There's not a whole lot of, there is repeat, but you don't wish somebody's, garbage disposal to break just because you fixed a hole in their drywall.
Right. If you did a good job, you're probably not going to come back for a while.
Right. Like exactly.
Houses are putting on a roof. You're kind of hoping you don't have to come back.
Exactly. So that's the thing about your business model that intrigues me. I love the recurring revenue. It's a great business model just in general. So out of curiosity, what were the other two franchises that you didn't do?
One was a mobile gym. It's called Gym Guys. It was what it sounds like, is they hire a trainer, and they've got some equipment in the back of the van, and they go, you see people doing yoga on the beach,
sure,
or they've got some little dumbbells and medicine balls and things like that, or going to people's homes. It was very high end. It was still service oriented.
Sure.
But I was a little burned out on doing the athletic thing. And that's
sure,
one of the reasons she brought it to me. But they had a pretty good marketing plan as well. And another was a home inspection business.
Okay.
And one thing was that Corpus wasn't an open territory.
Yeah.
And then, which I would have gone to the Fortworth area if that had been something I really wanted to do. But especially now with the licensing and things like that, with how difficult that is with just pest control, which is, you think is pretty, it's not rocket science, but there's a lot of licensing and things you got to take care of.
Sure.
There's a federal or state law for almost every single thing in a house.
Yes.
So,
yes, there is.
You get the knowledge you have to get started is immense.
Yeah.
So, and then generating those leads, you're pretty much depending on realtors. Then that's your sole source
100%.
Of leads.
Yeah. Cause I don't need a home inspection until I go to buy a house. And then I'm going to get that home inspector from my realtor 9 times out of 10, I would guess.
Right. Yeah. Not everyone needs a house this year or this month or every month, but mosquitoes pretty much bother everyone. So it was a little bit, it's an easier sell.
Yeah, no, I like it. Plus there's some scalability for mosquito hunters, right? So you can scale up because you're not always doing all the work. My assumption is what I know, the people I know that are home inspectors, is it's typically just them or them and a father, them and a son, because once you train somebody, they typically will just go and do their own thing. So,
right.
Which is not as easy to do with what you're doing.
There's very few. Yeah, there's very few. There is a guy out here on the island, Beach Tree Services. I think he's finally gotten a little bit of scale. He's done well, but that's been very purposeful on his end.
Sure. So long term, what are your goals? You staying just in the Corpus area? Are you just going to grow this area out, or are you in other markets, or what's the long term goal?
There's so much to do before this area is completely booked. I don't see expanding unless we bought some zip codes in Portland or something like that and expand it out that way. I don't see myself wanting to move out into the valley and, hire a manager and get the business started up there. I think there's plenty to get done just right here.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, ma'am, I really appreciate your time today. Again, thank you for joining me. And hopefully somebody will be able to take some good information from this. I know there's a lot. I mean, the franchise model, like I told you before, I was part of a car franchise and I just didn't like it because I was in a box. But listening to the things that you're talking about, there's a ton of benefits. I could see it being very beneficial just for what I do with Flip Flop Handyman. So I'm sure there's going to be some people that listen to this and kind of take that away. And so you said you used a service to find the franchise. Is that right?
Well, she kind of found me. She saw my resume floating around. Have you ever thought about owning your own business? And I said, no, but tell me more.
Interesting. I didn't know those services were out there. So that's interesting. But again, thank you so much for your time and joining me as a guest.
All right. Thank you very much.